You can learn a lot about a man by the way he handles a wrench. Some guys work slow and deliberate. Others muscle through and strip the damn bolts. Then there's the ones like Pastor Mark Simmons, never touched a wrench in his life, but damn if he didn't know how to spin one hell of a sermon. I should know. We were best friends once. Name's Liam, 44 years old. Run a one-man mechanic shop out in northern Georgia, about an hour outside Atlanta. Population here hovers around 5,000 on a good day. If your cousin gets arrested or your kid wins a baseball trophy, trust me, everybody knows before you can hit send on a text. And church? It's the beating heart of this place. The Baptist Church on Main is practically a town hall, which makes the pastor not just a preacher, but a king of sorts. And that was Mark, young, sharp, born to play the room. I'd known him since high school. We used to drink Miller Lite behind the football bleachers when we were 17. Somewhere along the way, Mark traded 6-packs for scripture. I stuck with engines and baseball. Didn't matter. We stayed close. When I got married, Mark was my best man. When my ex filed papers, no warning, just, I'm not happy one morning over burnt eggs, it was Mark who poured me whiskey in my garage and told me God had a plan. God might have. Mark sure as hell had one of his own. I volunteered at the church, mostly fixing cars for folks who couldn't afford it. Mark would text me names, single moms, widows, veterans down on their luck. Do it for the Lord, he'd say. And I did. Never charged a dime. Didn't matter if it was 90 degrees in August or freezing in February. I'd haul out parts, skin my knuckles, and leave the keys in their mailbox with a prayer. I figured they counted for something. After my divorce, the shop and the church kept me sane. I coached Little League too. Our town runs one league tight-knit, just 6 teams. I loved those kids. Taught em how to field grounders and take an inside pitch without crying. Some of em didn't have dads around. I knew that feeling. I showed up every game, every practice. Then it all came apart. It started as a whisper. First, I noticed stares. At the diner, at practice. Folks stopped saying hi. Then my assistant coach Jimmy cornered me after batting drills. Man, there's talk. About you and Jessica Johnson. Jessica, a single mom. Sweet girl. I'd fixed her Chevy 2 weeks prior, wouldn't take her money. Told her to pay it forward. Talk like what? Jimmy shifted. Saying you took advantage. That you got handsy. I laughed. Actually laughed. You think I'd do that? Jimmy looked pained. I don't. But it's out there. I went straight to Mark. Told him what I'd heard. He leaned back in that big leather chair of his, hands steepled. Gave me that pastoral smile. Brother, he said. The enemy sows seeds of discord. We can't control what people say. I stared at him. My best friend. Not outraged. Not defensive. Calm as a pond. And that's when the first coil of cold slid up my spine. Mark knew. I didn't know how yet. But I knew one thing for sure, he wasn't gonna lift a damn finger to stop it. When a man you've known half your life won't look you in the eye, you start to question everything. I walked out of Mark's office with my gut twisting tighter than a cold brake line. Up to that point, I'd figured we were two sides of the same coin. He gave sermons, I fixed engines. He talked about good works, I tried to live him. Yeah? I couldn't shake the look in his eyes. Not fear. Not concern. Just calculation. Like a man watching a chess piece topple, already thinking 3 moves ahead. By the time I got back to the garage, the whispers had gone full-blown wildfire. 2 customers no-showed. One left a voicemail saying her husband didn't want her bringing the car by anymore. Later that night, I sat in the dugout watching my Little League kids run bases while the sun dipped low. Thought maybe I was imagining it until the league president, a sour-faced fella named Dwayne who'd spent years angling to run the show, came over, clearing his throat like he'd swallowed a peanut. Liam, we got concerns? I looked him dead in the eye. About what? He shifted, glanced around. We heard some things. About Jessica Johnson. About how you been with her. My blood boiled so hot I thought I'd pass out. I stood up slow. You accusing me of something, Dwayne? He backed up a step. Ain't accusing. But with all this talk, we think it best you step away for a bit. Just till things settle. Settle? I didn't do a damn thing. He shrugged, already retreating. And about guilt, Liam? It's about perception. I almost went after him. Almost told him to shove his clipboard somewhere personal. But what was the point? The fix was in. And Mark? My friend? Not a word. Not a call. Nothing. Jessica called me the next day crying. Liam, I swear, I didn't say anything. I told him you never touched me. I believed her. But the machine was already grinding us both up. Then she told me something that made my hands clench so hard I nearly cracked the phone. Mark's been texting me. Since before the car thing. Late at night. Saying he wanted to counsel me. I sat in stunned silence. I told him to stop. I blocked him. That cold coil in my gut turned into steel. This wasn't just bad luck or gossip gone wild. Mark was playing a dirty hand and I was the patsy. He'd stirred the mud to cover his own tracks, and if he thought I'd roll over, he didn't know me near as well as he thought. That night, I poured 3 fingers of whiskey, sat alone in my shop, and made a choice. I wasn't running. I wasn't leaving town. I was going to burn the son of a bitch down. But I was gonna do it slow. Careful. Like tuning an engine, 1 bolt at a time. And when it was done, Mark Simmons wouldn't be giving sermons. He'd be lucky if he could show his face at the Waffle House. There's a certain clarity that comes when you've got nothing left to lose. I sat in my garage that night, whiskey glass sweating on the workbench, turning it all over in my head. Mark had laid the trap, planted the whispers. Let the fire spread till I was scorched clean out of the church, the team, half the town's good graces. But he'd made a mistake. A big one. He left Jessica scared and raw, and she trusted me enough to tell the truth. And if there were one, there were more. I bet my last socket wrench on it. So I started making a list. First name? Jessica Johnson. I met her the next morning, early, before work, at the little diner on Route 17. Place with the chipped coffee cups and waitresses who refill before you ask. She was shaking. Said Mark had started with innocent-sounding check-in texts after her first visit to the church garage. Then the messages got bolder. More personal. A late night, you looked beautiful in service today. Another one, flat out asking if she was lonely. I asked if she still had him. She slid her phone across the table. Didn't delete a thing? I scrolled through them. There it was, in black and white. My jaw clenched. You okay if I show this to someone I trust? She hesitated. As long as it doesn't come back on me. It won't. Not till I say so. She nodded. That was the crack in the dam. Now I needed more. Next, I called Rachel, a former church secretary. She'd left 6 months prior, real sudden-like. Folks had gossiped about her falling away. I found her working part-time at the feed store. Cornered her on her lunch break. Rachel, I need the truth. About Mark. Her eyes flicked side to side, wary. I'm not here to judge. But he's coming after me now. And I know you didn't just quit for nothing. She looked down, then back up. Voice low. He started calling me late. Telling me how stressed he was. How he needed someone to talk to. Then he got handsy. I told the board. They brushed it off. There it was, pattern. I asked if she had anything. Notes. Messages. Proof. Rachel nodded. Kept copies of the expense reports. Mark was using the missions account to cover all kinds of crap. She promised to dig them up. Now I had a lead on his money games too. The more I pulled the thread, the more it unraveled. By Friday, I talked to 3 more women, 2 choir members and 1 youth staffer. Same story, slight variations. Late texts. Manipulative language. Some had blocked him, some just left the church scared. None wanted their names out. Not yet. I didn't blame him. In a town like ours, a whisper spreads faster than wildfire in August. But here's the thing about small towns, whispers go both ways. And I was just getting started. I grew up turning wrenches. You learn quick, rush the job, and something important breaks. Slow and steady, that's how you fix an engine. And that's how you take down a snake like Pastor Mark Simmons. By Saturday morning, I had enough fuel to burn him to the ground. Problem was, none of it would stick if I moved too fast. Jessica's texts? Could be spun. Rachel's expense reports? They needed context. The other women's stories? No one wanted their name attached, not in a town where the church board ran half the businesses. I needed evidence. Hard, undeniable, airtight. And I knew just the man to help. Sam Ritchie used to be the church IT guy before Mark ran him off. Real sharp with a computer, real bitter about how things ended. He owed me. I'd rebuilt his '86 Silverado a year back when no one else would touch it. I caught him at the gas station and asked if we could talk. Real casual. Out of earshot. Sam, I said, you ever get the feeling Mark didn't stop using that old church email server? He gave me a crooked grin. Oh, I know he didn't. Turns out Mark, in all his wisdom, had kept a second admin account active after the last upgrade, one tied to his old inbox. Probably didn't think anyone still had access. Sam did. I can't hack it, he said. But I can pull the archived backups. If something's there, it's there. We set a meet for late that night after the shop closed. That afternoon I kept digging. Hit the county clerk's office. Pulled public filings for the church's charity fund. Mark had filed 3 separate missions initiatives in the past year, each with a vague budget, each with increasing cash withdrawals. Add that to Rachel's expense sheets, and the picture got clearer. Money was moving, and it wasn't going where it should. At 10 p.m. sharp, Sam rolled up to my shop with a battered laptop and a grin. Took a bit, he said, plugging in. But here's the archive from the past 12 months. We sifted through it for hours, half junk, half gold. There were emails to 5 different women in town, couched in religious language but plain as day once you read between the lines. There were receipts, hotel bookings under church staff names, charges to personal accounts later reimbursed through missions funds. And then the crown jewel, a string of messages between Mark and the church treasurer. The treasurer had questioned a $1,200 withdrawal. Mark responded, "Handle it. We can't afford scrutiny." There it was. Intent. Pressure. Cover up. I sat back, heart pounding. "Sam," I said, voice low. "This is it." He nodded. "You gonna take it to the cops?" "Not yet," I said. "Not till everyone sees it." I had a plan now. Not just to expose Mark, but to do it so loud and so public no one could spin it away. The annual church picnic was 2 weeks out. Big crowd. Local news always did a live segment. And if I played this right, Mark's own words were gonna hang him in front of the whole damn town. The church picnic was 2 weeks out. That gave me just enough time to tune this plan like a carburetor, precise, smooth, impossible to stall. I spent that Sunday doing what Mark would have called laying groundwork. I called it what it was, setting a trap. First stop was Jessica's place. I laid out everything Sam and I had pulled, printed copies, not digital. You don't take electronic evidence to war unless you want someone hacking it. She sat on her couch, thumbing through the emails, her face going pale. "I knew it," she whispered. I didn't know it was all this. I didn't sugarcoat it. "Jess, if this goes public, there'll be blowback. You ready?" She hesitated, then straightened her shoulders. "I won't speak. But if they try to say I lied, you show them those messages." That's all I needed. Next, I called Rachel. Met her behind the feed store, out of sight. She handed over a USB with the rest of the expense reports, itemized, timestamped, damning. Then she gave me something I hadn't expected, a partial recording. "I was so sick of it," she said. Started recording our finance meetings on my phone. The clip was grainy but clear. Mark's voice. "We'll shuffle the line items. If the board sees it, just tell them it was an error." I damn near kissed her boots. By midweek, I had a pile of evidence high enough to block out the Georgia sun. But dumping it straight to the cops? Wouldn't do the job. See, in a town like ours, the law moves slow. Half the sheriff's department went to high school with Mark or his board. I wasn't about to hand this off and pray they didn't bury it. I needed spectacle. I needed the kind of public shame no backroom handshake could erase. That's where the picnic came in. Every year, they set up a stage, rent a PA system, and invite the local ABC affiliate to do a community spotlight. Whole town tunes in. Mark always gave a big, righteous sermon. Talked about virtue, service, sacrifice. It was his favorite soapbox. So I made a little anonymous package, neatly labeled, airtight, impossible to ignore. A file of all the emails, the expense reports, the recorded clip, and a written summary in plain English, no lawyer speak, just truth. I mailed it to the ABC affiliate's assignment editor. And because Georgia is a one-party consent state, that recording was perfectly legal for me to share. But I didn't stop there. I knew Mark's ego, he'd double down if he felt exposed. So I dropped a second anonymous note in the station's tip box. Watch his speech at the picnic. If he mentions virtue or service, cue the file. The town deserves to know. The anchor who handled these spots? Local gal. Used to play in the same little league I coached. I was banking on her smelling the blood in the water. By the end of the week, I had 2 more aces up my sleeve, 2 more women willing to let me use their evidence anonymously if needed. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was wait and watch a man hang himself with his own words. The morning of the church picnic felt like the kind of day you know you'll remember until your dying breath. One of those hot Georgia Sundays where the air hangs thick and sweet with smoke from 100 grills. Kids laughing. Women fanning themselves under white tents. Grown men standing around coolers pretending they aren't sweating through their shirts. It looked like any other year. But not to me. I parked 3 blocks away and walked in slow, baseball cap pulled low. Could have worn sunglasses, but that would have drawn more attention. Didn't want to tip my hand, not yet. Mark was already holding court when I got there. Shaking hands. Smiling that goddamn smile of his. Women cooing, old men slapping his back. You'd think he was running for governor. If he noticed me hanging by the fence line, he didn't show it. Fine. We'd see how he looked in 30 minutes. I'd spent the past 2 nights turning over every piece of evidence, checking and rechecking the timelines. If anything was shaky, this whole thing would blow up in my face. But it wasn't shaky. It was solid steel. By 2 p.m., the ABC van rolled in. Small crew, familiar faces. The anchor was Sarah Lewis, a sharp one, no patience for small-town politics. The kind of reporter who smelled a story 2 counties away. I caught her eye once, just a flicker, but I saw it, the look of someone ready to drop a bomb. That package had landed. They set up cameras while Mark got ready to take the stage. The program always ran the same, kids sang, old folks prayed, and Mark closed it out with what he liked to call words of challenge and inspiration. You could damn near set your watch to it. I positioned myself by the sound tent, far enough to stay invisible but close enough to see Mark's face clear as day. Jessica texted me once, "You sure about this?" I texted back, "Dead sure." "You okay?" She replied, "Watching from home. Praying for you." I smiled. No turning back now. Then Mark took the mic. I swear, you'd think the man was the second coming. He launched right in, talked about how, in troubled times, the Lord calls us to be examples of virtue. I felt my pulse tick up. He kept going. How we must serve one another with clean hands and pure hearts. That was it. The line I knew he'd use. The line I told Sarah to listen for. And right on cue, the camera feed cut to Sarah. She looked straight into the lens. Calm. Professional. We interrupt this segment to share newly surfaced information regarding Pastor Mark Simmons and the First Baptist Church. The crowd froze. You could hear the flies buzzing. She laid it out clear, emails, expense reports, recorded conversations, all displayed on the big LED screen behind her. Mark's face drained white. His mouth opened but no sound came. Sarah kept going. Multiple credible sources have corroborated this information. An official investigation is expected to follow. It was like someone had knocked the air out of the whole picnic. Gasps. Murmurs. A couple folks started shouting. Mark stood there, sweating bullets, gripping the mic with both hands. For once in his life, no words came out. And me? I stood stone still, watching a man who'd spent years in the pulpit finally choke on his own lies. I've seen engines seize. You hear a pop, a metal groan, then nothing but smoke and silence. That's about what happened to Mark Simmons after Sarah finished her broadcast. There he stood, center stage, clutching that mic like it was a life preserver. His mouth opened and closed twice like a fish out of water. Sweat poured down his temples. And the crowd? Pure bedlam. Some folks gasped and hustled their kids away. Others whispered, faces pale. The old deacons who usually flanked Mark looked like they'd swallowed broken glass. A few diehards started shouting at Sarah, calling it a smear, a conspiracy. But Sarah, bless her, wasn't done. She repeated slow, clear, that the evidence had been independently verified and that the station stood by its reporting. Then she cut the feed. Just like that, live coverage ended, leaving Mark frozen in the middle of his own backyard barbecue. I stayed where I was. No need to gloat. The damage was done. Mark finally managed to croak out a few words, some garbled line about praying for clarity and standing in faith. No one bought it. I watched a few church mothers, women who used to fawn over him, shake their heads and walk away. Saw old Tom Jenkins, who'd been church treasurer for 20 years, stomp off toward the parking lot with a face like thunder. The real show started after. By the time I slipped out and walked the 3 blocks back to my truck, my phone was blowing up. Jimmy, my old assistant coach, holy hell, man. Was that you? Jessica, thank you. Thank you so much. Even Rachel sent a message, couldn't have happened to a better man. I didn't answer yet. Just sat in my truck, let the AC cool me down, and watched the smoke settle. Back at the picnic grounds, folks were scattering like ants from a kicked hill. Mark had retreated off stage, surrounded by a few loyalists trying to usher him away. His wife, eyes hidden behind big sunglasses, looked like she might bolt any second. By 6 p.m., word had spread through town like a wildfire in a dry pine forest. The ABC clip went viral on local Facebook groups within an hour. Half the town saw it by dinner. At 8 p.m. sharp, an emergency meeting of the church board was called. Mark didn't attend. Word was he was holed up at home, phone off, lawyer already retained. That night, I finally poured a whiskey and sat out on my porch. Listened to the cicadas drone, the hum of distant cars. For the first time in months, the knot in my gut was gone. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But tonight, I'd done what needed doing. The serpent had been dragged into the light. And there was no slithering back now. You can always tell when a man's kingdom is crumbling, not by the noise he makes, but by the silence that follows. That next Monday morning, Mark Simmons' silence was deafening. By sunrise, the church parking lot looked like a crime scene. Cars in and out. Deacons pacing. I heard later that the board met for 6 straight hours. Didn't take a prophet to guess the topic. Meanwhile, the rest of town chewed on it like a dog with a new bone. The ABC clip had gone full wildfire. Folks who'd kissed Mark's ring the week before were now practicing their "I never trusted him" lines. At the shop, customers came in buzzing. Half wanted details, the other half wanted to pretend they hadn't believed the rumors about me in the first place. I didn't feed any of them. Just kept my head down, turned wrenches, and let the town talk. But inside? Damn, it felt good. See, small towns have long memories. Mine included. Every sideways look I'd gotten over the past month. Every cold shoulder. Every whispered accusation about Jessica. Now the same folks were realizing they'd been played. And Mark? The golden boy preacher? His mask was off. Word trickled out fast. The church treasurer resigned on the spot. 2 youth staffers went public with their stories, ones I hadn't even known about. More women came forward. Quietly at first, then louder as they saw they weren't alone. By noon, an emergency letter went out from the church board, full of mealy-mouthed phrases about serious concerns and leadership under review. Translation? Mark was toast. I heard through the grapevine that Mark's lawyer had already tried to strong-arm the board into silence. Threatened defamation suits. Claimed the evidence was doctored. Problem was, the evidence wasn't just sitting in the board's hands anymore. Sarah Lewis had done her homework. The station was standing firm. And more receipts kept surfacing: hotel stays, counseling sessions billed through missions funds, text messages with timestamps no spin doctor could erase. By that evening, the church's Facebook page had shut down comments. The phones were off the hook. And Mark? He hadn't left his house. One of the deacon's sons told me they saw him through the blinds, just pacing like a caged cat, phone glued to his ear. I figured he was calling every lawyer from Atlanta to Macon. Wouldn't matter. You can't unring a bell. And this one had rung loud enough for the whole county to hear. Around 9 p.m. Rachel texted me one line: "Board meeting again tomorrow." Mark's done. I poured myself a drink and sat on the porch, boots up on the rail. Somewhere in town, the man who tried to ruin my life was watching his own burn down around him. And I hadn't even needed to touch the match. It's a strange thing, watching justice roll downhill after you've spent so long pushing the damn boulder uphill. By Tuesday morning, the church was bleeding members faster than a busted radiator. I heard the choir director quit. Half the youth ministry team walked out. Folks who'd worn their Sunday best and sat front row now kept their heads down in Piggly Wiggly. I'd kept my mouth shut the whole time. Not one word in public. No victory lap. No, I told you so. That wasn't the point. But inside? Hell yes, it felt good. Then came the official word. Mid-morning, Rachel texted me again. Board just voted. Mark's out. Requested resignation effective immediately. They're calling it moral failure. Moral failure. Neat little bow to put on a rotting box of filth. But I'd take it. Not an hour later, an email blast went out from the church. "We are saddened to inform you that Pastor Mark Simmons has resigned his position. We ask for your prayers as we heal and move forward." Yeah, I'm sure Mark needed plenty of prayer, likely from his lawyer too. Word on the street was more women had come forward after the board vote. One even threatened a civil suit. The local sheriff had opened a preliminary investigation, though I wasn't holding my breath on that one. Still, public opinion? That was a force even the sheriff couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Mark had gone full hermit. No one seen him since Sunday. His wife, bless her, had packed 2 suitcases into the back of an SUV and driven off, headed to her sister's, some said. By sunset, a for sale sign went up in the Simmons front yard. It was over. I spent that evening in the shop putting a new clutch in an old Chevy. Just me, some Hank Jr. on the radio, and the soft hum of justice served. Around 9, Jimmy, my old assistant coach, came by. He stood in the doorway a minute, hat in hand. "Liam," he said, voice low. "I owe you an apology." I looked up. "Should have never believed that crap," he went on. "Should have stood up when folks started talking." "I'm sorry." I wiped my hands on a rag. "You weren't the only one, Jimmy?" He nodded, eyes wet. "You coming back to the team?" I thought about it. Thought about those kids. The game I loved. The poison that had been poured into it. "Maybe," I said. "But if I do, it'll be on my terms." He smiled. "Fair enough." After he left, I sat on the shop stool for a long time. No big celebration. No fireworks. Just a man who'd been dragged through the mud, standing clean again. Mark had tried to ruin me to save himself. Instead, he destroyed everything he built. And all I'd done was show folks the truth. Some folks think revenge is about fireworks, loud, messy, something you can toast after the smoke clears. But standing on the other side of it now? I'll tell you what it really is. It's quiet. Heavy. Like putting down a load you carried too long. Mark was gone. Resigned. House up for sale. Last I heard, he'd lawyered up and was looking at moving north, maybe Atlanta. Not that any pulpit would touch him now. The receipts were public. The stories were out. And me? I had my name back. Jessica could walk through town without folks whispering. Rachel got apologies from the same church board that once ignored her. The women who came forward finally got to breathe. Small wins. But real ones. I didn't go back to that church. Never will. Some stains don't wash out. But the funny thing? Folks came to me. Quiet at first, parents from Little League, a couple board members who'd resigned in protest, even old Dwayne from the baseball board. "Liam," he said, hat in hand, "we'd like you to coach again. Clean slate. Whole new board." I looked him over. Measured my words. "I'll think about it," I said. "But if I come back, it's gotta be about the kids. No politics. No favors." He nodded quick. Understood. A week later, I was back on the field, sun on my shoulders, glove in hand. Kids smiling, laughing like nothing had ever touched them. That's what matters. As for the shop, business was better than ever. Folks came in and stayed a little longer now. They talked. They asked questions. Some apologized. Others just said, "Glad you stuck around." I didn't need the thanks. But hearing it? Yeah, it helped. One evening, about a month later, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just a single sheet of paper, neat handwriting. "Liam, I don't know how to face anyone right now. I deserve everything coming to me. But I want you to know I never thought you'd fight back. I thought I buried you. I was wrong. It wasn't signed. But I didn't need a signature. I knew the hand that wrote it. I read it once. Then again. And then I burned it in the ashtray behind the shop. Watched the smoke curl up into the Georgia twilight. No response needed. Some men hang themselves with rope. Mark had used a microphone and his own damn words. Life moved on. It always does. But now, when I drive past that church on Main, I smile. Not because I won, but because the truth did. And some debts, no matter how long they take to collect, are worth every second. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.